Hi, welcome to today's Piece of Peace. We start off in Luke this morning, chapter 6, verse 32 through 38. The devotion I'm reading out of is out of Our Daily Bread. I'm not going to try to massacre the author's name. The first name is Remy Ordella, I think. We can start 32. He reads, it's written in red, so these are Jesus' words. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect payment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great. You will be sons of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. It says, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. He writes his devotion and says, at a gas station one day, Stacy encountered a woman who had left home without her bank card. Stranded with her baby, she was asking past-buyers for help. Although unemployed at the time, Stacy spent $15 to put gas in the stranger's tank. Days later, Stacy came home to find a gift basket of children's toys and other presents waiting on her porch. Friends of the stranger had reciprocated Stacy's kindness and converted her $15 blessing into a memorable Christmas for her family. This heartwarming story illustrates the point Jesus made when he said, "Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." It can be tempting to hear this and focus on what we get out of giving. But doing so would miss the point. Jesus preceded that statement with this one: love your enemies. Do good to them and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. We don't give to get things. We give because God delights in our generosity. Our love for others reflects His loving heart towards us. His charge was, in what ways have you experienced God's generosity in your life? How can you extend generosity to others? And his prayer, gracious Father, help me to give generously to others because you've been so generous to me. There was a season in my life where we had this more of a old truck with sort of a extended cab on it, and it was sitting in our yard and we weren't using it, and I can remember we were thinking of we're going to put it up and just get that sold and get it out of the way. And I'd been sitting at church that day hearing about a man who really needed some help with a vehicle, and I approached my husband saying, hey, let's just give this to this guy, he really needs it. And I think my husband was a little, really give a car away? And I knew it needed probably a starter and a couple, just a little bit of work, but I didn't know what that financially would cost or anything. I just knew that this truck was sitting in our yard, and that somebody needed something. And I didn't know the man very well. I just heard him speak once. He wasn't a dear friend, but definitely wasn't an enemy. But I can remember giving that car away and just feeling very grateful that we could do that. And yet it wasn't really that great of a gift because it needed some work, and I'm not even sure how that functioned for the man that was able to get it. I do remember though, years later, needing a vehicle and being very tight financially, and I can remember receiving a vehicle from that man and his bride. And it was a nice vehicle, and it was something I didn't have to put any money into, and it was like 100 times better than what I had given away. And I think that's a piece of this story. I never knew that I'd be in need like that. And it didn't seem like it was really hard to give that. And yet I know I didn't give him to the quality of what he had given back. It was just very much a blessing. And then part of the reading in the scripture, I was just wondering, Lord, how did you give to your enemy? He chose the cross for even those that were mocking him. That huge gift he gave of his life. And do I give to people who mock me? Do I tend to draw back? Do I give to the people who have betrayed me? Do I extend that same kind of kindness? That was challenging for me, because I think I have a much easier time giving to those that I love, and that those that I'm engaging with, and that those that appreciate me. And yet that was a challenge to go, how do you become more like Jesus when you give to those who don't give back? How do you keep loving someone who doesn't love back? How do you keep forgiving someone who you have to keep forgiving? Those were the challenges for me in that scripture. So I will allow Lord to prune me even more, but I'll come into Jesus' calling with that. What are the challenges you have with that scripture? How hard is it for you to love those that don't love back? How hard is it to give when you're not expecting in return? So today is Jesus Calling, Sarah Young's book. You can download the app or you can order her book online. She writes from the perspective of God speaking to us these words. Let me anoint you with my presence. I am King of Kings and Lord of Lords, dwelling in unapproachable light. When you draw near to me, I respond by coming closer to you. As my presence envelops you, you may feel overwhelmed by my power and my glory. This is a form of worship, sensing your smallness in comparison to my greatness. Man has tended to make himself the measure of all things, but man's measure is too tiny to comprehend my majestic vastness. That is why most people do not see me at all, even though they live and move and have their being in me. Enjoy the radiant beauty of my presence. Declare my glorious being to the world. Let that be your piece of peace today.